Call the August 24th, 2026 Peachtree City Planning Commission meeting to order. If all in attendance who are citizens of the United States would please rise and join me in pledging allegiance to the flag of our country.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, and indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone in attendance here this evening, as well as those online. We're going to go ahead and keep things moving. We have some presentations to get through and some old agenda items that we've been working on for a little while. So going to turn it to staff. Any announcements this evening?
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay. Any presentations?
No, sir.
Okay. Any agenda changes?
No, sir.
Okay. Next, the minutes from the August 10th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting. Hopefully all commissioners have had an opportunity to review those. Do we have a motion from the dais?
I'll move to approve the meeting minutes from Monday, August 10th, 2026.
Okay.
Second.
Motion to approve the minutes from the August 10th, 2026. Any second? Any other discussion, commissioners? No? Okay. With that, all those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted for August 10th, 2026, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Minutes approved as submitted. Okay, next, old agenda items. The first is the text amendment to the Land Development Ordinance, specifically Article 11, Vegetation Protection and Landscape Requirements. And I'll turn that over to staff.
Yes, sir. We have, as you know, have entered into a contract with Inspire to draft our UDO, our Unified Development Ordinance. Sarah Sinatra, who is leading that project, has served in helping us to gather different components of that document. One of the portions of her project with the city is called peer review, where they look at things that we're working on and give us insight, suggestions, just different ways to deal with our UDO. And so just to let you know, any text amendment we've worked on in the past and reviewing, and any ones that we're working on currently, they take the time to review and give us insight. So we've shared the land development ordinance changes that were suggested with them, and she would like to give some insight as to what she's found in her review to assist with the recommendation going to council. So with that, I introduce to you Sarah Sinatra.
Perfect. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, and thanks, Shayla. We took a look at the proposed text, thought that technically it was sound. There's good information in here. Really liked the approach that you were taking in having some standards for native requirements. We made some edits that were mostly technical, because when we write code, we like to try to remove any kind of ambiguities. So simple things that you'll see in here. If you, I guess it'd follow along with I'm assuming you guys have it in your packets, or okay. So I did a strike through and underline of the proposed text that we saw. We just struck things like development and redevelopment. That's actually not a defined term. When we go back through the code, these are things we may go ahead and actually define what that means. But in the short term, because we know that our goal was to have this ordinance advanced before the entire UDO was advanced, so we struck that. So it's just generally for projects. Because the city's policy right now is dealt through with a separate administrative policy, we struck that which is under the city-owned or city-operated properties and facilities, meeting those goals. That's a bigger discussion. It's a change to the administrative regulations if the city wishes to do that. Because this is in the purview of this ordinance, we struck that in order to get it advanced and be able to get on the books. And then we also added, because we found the language a little bit confusing, that it was originally written as applicability determined at the time of plan, and then saying existing landscapes not undergoing redevelopment are not retroactively. So we basically just modified that to include what it to state that this division does not apply to existing landscape areas within a site plan that are not impacted or modified by a site plan amendment. That's kind of typical language that a landscape architect will review and say, and have an understanding of what's applicable and what is not. Originally, when I looked through the city's non-conforming code section, I thought that there'd be more teeth in that section. There was not. It's something that we're evaluating as when we do the full UDO update, that we're going to add some further language about what's considered non-conforming, what's considered what you can amend or change in that section. So a couple other modifications that we included is we indicated that under the section 1136 native plant standards, under subsection A, it originally said for all regulated development and redevelopment site plans. We struck that in just site plans. At least 60% shall be native. We struck the additional language about that it's applies to the submitted landscape plan as a whole. We have on staff a number of registered landscape architects. And so we had one of our landscape architects review this section and found that that section was challenging, and so we struck it, and instead we just relied on the 60% of the total plants on the approved landscape plan being native species.
Okay.
We also made some technical, I'm sorry.
Can you just explain what you struck again to me?
Sure. The struck section is the 60% requirement applies to the submitted landscape plan as a whole. It is not calculated against the minimum required quantities, caliper thresholds, or coverage minimums separately. It's simply 60% of all plants on the submitted site plan. So we found that that language could be construed different ways, and if the intent is to be 60%, we just struck that to make it easy and clean, that it's 60% of the site plan.
Thank you.
There was also in the next section, we just made a quick change to the technical term. It's now, instead of Georgia Exotic Pest Plant Council, we changed that to Georgia Invasive Species Council. So I think the largest change we made was under the flexibility and substitution provisions. The native species unavailability. Originally, the language said that if a required native species is unavailable, the applicant may request substitution with written documentation from at least 2 regional nurseries confirming unavailability. So I spent a lot of time with another municipality where they had a really robust tree preservation ordinance, and part of that was we did a large investigation. Oh, I'm sorry. We did this large investigation, and we had an arborist that was on their, not on their staff, but it was a resident formed committee. So they went and explained to us, that a lot of times, while there's native species that you can get, you might not be able to get the exact ones. And our challenge with the language as is written, we didn't feel that putting the onus on the nursery was appropriate, because what's going to compel the nursery to actually provide the documentation that you couldn't provide X, Y, and Z? So instead, what we did was we put in a substitution provision, which said that substitutions must be functionally equivalent in canopy size, ecological role, and site tolerance, and must be selected from non-invasive species. And then we said, except 2 understories may be substituted for 1 canopy tree. These have to be all native, so it's the 2 understory for 1 canopy in order to meet the native planting requirement. So this just took away the responsibility basically for staff to be reviewing to make sure that these nurseries sent in the right information, that a nursery would be writing it. If they're not selling the product, they may not be compelled to do so, and that could cause, challenges there. We don't want to add. We want the trees to be planted and they're native, and if it's appropriate, those 2 would be counting as 1. And then we just added some additional trees to the watch list or the invasive species list. So there were some additional ones that our landscape architect identified that we thought that y'all should really add to the list as ones that would be considered invasive. And I believe that's it, and then just added some definitions of what those would be. I know I went through that quickly, but certainly happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for any questions from commissioners as to Inspire or staff. Commissioner Hans, any questions?
Well, maybe my question is out of context, but in looking at what development projects are that fall under these regulations, I'm just curious in your research when you reviewed other peer cities and what was done in terms of best practices, how were other organizations treated, like quasi-public organizations, institutional organizations, public regulated entities, local and state, local development projects, government projects, development authority projects, community development corporation projects, nonprofits, religious organizations, all these different organizations, they have community or facility projects within our boundary or with other municipal boundaries. And how are those projects treated with a landscape ordinance like this?
In many municipalities I've seen is that they are still bound to the similar standards. So this is only relating to the native and invasive. So when we look at your entire landscape ordinance, there are things like buffers that between certain uses will be reduced. That with certain types of uses, the landscaping could be less, and then other uses it would be more. And that's really typical. When you're talking about a native and invasive list, typically you're talking about, those type of uses are enveloped within the typical ordinance.
But how are they reviewed? Are they reviewed by the local staff, those projects?
Yes.
So like, for example, if a utility or a development authority has a project that's going to be developed in the community, is it the planning department here that reviews those?
Yes, so go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead.
So any level of development, of course, we're reviewing, whether it be a private or public project. There are times, if you mentioned, let's just say the Animal Shelter Authority, if they have a development that requires landscaping review, of course, yes, we review and we provide those rules back to them as well. So
Public utilities, state government projects?
they have different kind of rules sometimes because there's utilities involved, so they may not necessarily
Well, I'm
have
not talking about utilities, but I'm talking
Okay.
about buildings.
buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they have different rules as well, but I will tell you locally, we usually don't have much authority to enforce a lot of those rules when it's dealing with other governmental land. Particularly, definitely federal or state projects, we typically don't have the reviewing authorities that we would for a private development. So it's a yes, but sort of a no.
Yeah, I guess my concern is making sure that we treat everybody equally.
Absolutely.
Private sector, public sector, quasi-public sector, institutional, and what have you.
I got
That
you.
they all fall under the same guidelines and rules in terms of landscape requirements, whether that's
Understood.
natural. Yeah,
Sometimes those authorities aren't given to us, though. But I understand the desire to have it, but some levels of authority aren't granted to us to step above us to regulate. So, yeah.
that's it for right
Okay.
now.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes, I have a question. I think I know the answer to it. Section 1138, prohibited invasive species. You added to the list that we had. Where did you get that information, and why was it added?
Our Georgia landscape architect went ahead and went through the list through the all plant species designated by the Georgia Invasive Species Council. So she took a look and identified some additional materials that she thought were appropriate.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Commissioner Chris?
Yeah, just first of all, thank you for going through this with a fine-tooth comb. I really appreciate the work that you guys have done. I do have a question related to the section C1 on native species unavailability.
Yes.
I have a concern there, because previously with our language that we said we had there, it said, if they're unavailable and you have 2 nurseries, then you can do substitutions. And now it seems like there really is no guideline for substitutions and how many substitutions you could have. Quite frankly, it looks like you could substitute everything the way this is written right now. And I'm curious if you share that concern, and if so, if not, why?
The cost.
Okay.
A lot of times, the 2 are going to be more expensive than the 1. I had the same question when I went through this exercise previously, and we had some developers talk through it and say, they had concerns about the 2 to 1 because they thought that would even add more cost. So would prefer to have the larger, the 1 tree that was native. So, a lot of times that balances out. Adding the language about the nurseries does become a little bit more burdensome.
I guess I just don't understand that piece of it because, the first sentence there is substitutions must be functionally equivalent to canopy size, right? And it says except 2 understory trees may be substituted for 1. So that really to me is only talking about the size, right? But to me also, there's absolutely no, threshold limit on what people can substitute. I would like to see a statement, maybe something that just says substitutions should not, make up the great majority of the project plan, and maybe leave the discretion to staff.
Are you suggesting like a percentage cap that substitutions can't exceed whatever that percentage number would be?
Well, sure, because then I think there's an easy way for someone who doesn't agree with putting native plants in their landscape plan to just say, couldn't find them.
Well,
I'm
they'd
going to
still
substitute.
have to put native.
Well, I don't know if I read it the same way, because there's just no limitation on substitutions. We're just allowing any substitution.
So the 1 canopy that was native would be substituted for 2 understory that are native. So if we added language to clarify that both would have to be native, like you're not being able to bring in a non-native, that's not an option.
Doesn't A cover that though? I mean, if you look at, you got C1, I agree with you if you just look at C1.
Yeah.
But if you look at A, it still has the 60%.
Yeah.
I don't think that C1, the way they have it written up, negates the responsibility to follow A.
I think it possibly does, and
Okay.
I'm just a little concerned about that someone who just doesn't want to follow what we've put in place can just say I'm substituting, and everything has been substituted. I think we need to make a clear statement that that's not what the intent of this is. That's just my major concern. I understand what you're saying, Jack, and I kind of agree with you to a certain extent. It's clear that the intent.
No, if you think there's a loophole, I'm all about closing it.
I think there's a loophole for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you like to see us refer back to the 60% language in C1? Would it be where in C1 you
Well,
can just refer back to say C section?
I think overall I'm okay with substitutions, right? Like substitutions are fine, but substitutions should be few and far between. And yeah, we could put a cap on it, right? How much of the 60% is allowed to be substituted? We could do that, right? But really, I think what I'd like to see is just some limiting language that shows that substitution should not make up the great majority of the final product, right? The final product of the plan. That's the language that I would like to see. Okay, thanks. That's all. That's the only question I had. Otherwise, it looks great.
Commissioner Halverson.
Could you clarify the 60% language in this aspect? So you have a site plan, and the exemption in the front, let me see if I can find that language again, says existing landscape areas within the site plan which are not impacted or modified by a site plan are exempt, right? So is it 60% of the new plants, 60% of the total plants on the site plan? Just 60?
The new,
So,
the affected area.
So a site, if I only added 4 plants, 60% of those would need to be native and the rest of it could be left the way it is.
Right. It's probably be quite unusual that your site plan would be that small.
Well, I'm just exaggerating,
But
but.
yes. So that's where I was mentioning that I felt, because I went and looked at your non-conforming code section, because typically if there's language about the site conditions and exceeding a certain percentage, and when that trigger would be to bring the entire site up to conformance. And I didn't see a lot of strong language relating to that. That's where I was trying to say, maybe there's an opportunity to then bring the full site up. But that's something that we'll work through, when we look at the full code. But yes, it would be 60% of the affected area.
Okay, because I think that's something we'll need to work on going forward,
Yep.
because I think that also undermines the intent of what we're trying to do, because it diminishes it significantly.
If you can't tell, we spent months on this section alone. Months.
So that's my concern.
Commissioner Hamner?
No questions.
And my only,
You want me to?
my only question, were the additions to the list of the invasive plants, were those sent past our urban forestry? Did those go past,
In regards to,
just for his input at all on those?
so.
With Bob Warner, was that anything?
So, no, Bob, well, it was asked to go back to you all when it was sent to council.
Okay.
It did go before council last week, but it was asked to come back, well, not last week, last term, and it was asked to come back to you, but, no, Bob did not see.
I
the
didn't know
second
if he
round.
had an opportunity to take a look at that, because I know he had some concerns with a few of plants that we had put on there at one point in time. I think sweet gums was one of them. And we had another sweet gum discussion earlier today. But I know he wanted that added back in, so I didn't know if he had an opportunity just to take a look and see what was added.
No, he hasn't.
Okay. Okay, continue on. Comments, Commissioner Hamner.
Yeah. First of all, thank you again for taking a look at this overall. Looks great. I'm glad, and I think a lot of the changes obviously clean it up quite a bit. But to bring up Commissioner Chris's point about the loophole, I can see how if somebody really wanted to abuse it, they could. So if there's any other language that we could put in just to help prevent any of those loopholes, that's really it. Other than that, I think it looks really good.
Perfect, thank you. Commissioner Halverson, comments?
No other comments.
Commissioner Chris?
Yeah, just that one loophole comment. And also in that section, I'm also noticing that we are eliminating the may request language. So I'd love to have that back in there because then I think it forces the applicant to work with our staff here in the city. And I think that that's a better result than having no oversight whatsoever and someone can just make their own substitutions without, any oversight from it. Not that I expect that we will get many of those, but I think it's better to have that language in there still. So that's only comment. Once again, I think it's a really nice job overall here.
Did you have a comment to that comment?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. Commissioner Allen, any comments?
Yeah. I'm really impressed with your knowledge of what we went through, and thank you for doing it.
Thanks.
No other comments,
Commissioner
but I echo his comments.
Yeah, and thank you for going through this. As you can hear, we did spend quite a bit of time back and forth on this. What started off as just an invasive a year ago.
It's been a year.
It's
And
been a
then
year.
Yeah, and then some.
And it was just a basic discussion between really 2 or 3 people and a couple people on city council. Just, hey, we would like to look at doing this. Turned into now a pretty comprehensive, invasive as well as native plant. I think it's going to put Peachtree City in a great place. But I think, just those few
Sure.
items, if you could go back and take a look at. Overall, again, great job. Glad you were able to provide some clarity to a couple of the areas that we may have thought a little different, at least wording wise and stuff like that. So definitely appreciate all the work.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'll work with Shayla and we'll make those edits.
Okay. And I think other than that, if we can just see that back, sounds like we're pretty good with everything else. Is that correct? Okay.
I'm just clarifying that
Yeah.
I'll present that back once she makes these edits. I'll
Okay.
present it back. We wouldn't want to have to bring her back for that.
No, no,
Thank you, Sarah.
not at all.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much. Yes. I think we're really close on that. So
I think
just
so.
get it cleaned up.
Yeah.
Yep. This will be a really good thing. Okay. Next, the text amendment to the general provisions of zoning ordinance, specifically 908.10, to consider push carts as a mobile food operation, and turn it back over to staff.
Is it not working?
Okay, so this again is an item that you've heard before, and just to give you a little history, we've last spoken on this one on August 10th, and there were conversations and questions that you asked for me to give a little bit more time and look into some other areas. So we're here today to talk about what those findings were, and hoping that this item can move forward if you're ready for that. So, of course, we're here to speak in regards to push carts. Council initiated this particular text amendment, and council, just to kind of reiterate, has asked that it stay strictly within the commercial and industrial areas of the zoning classifications. It has been identified that with push carts, they wanted to see it separated away from mobile food trucks, so that those pieces that pertain primarily to push carts are for push carts, and then food truck can have its own section as it's an actual motor vehicle. And so things that were missing in that, we, of course, in your text, you'll see that we added language about 12 months. We found that for the vending sites, because that is a portion of the rule, vending sites must be approved separately. They lasted until the end of time. So we're asking for this amendment to allow for there to be a ending cycle for these permits, for the food trucks or for the vending sites as a whole. And then you'll see in push carts, we added a new section, and then we changed some rules for food truck storage. Okay, notes from our last meeting. So this says new section was created, but that basically means that this language existed, but we basically changed the language where you see where it says no structure for food trucks. Not sure why that says no structure, but we decided to make it very clear to say no food truck, vehicle, or equipment, so forth, shall be left unattended and stored. That gives a little bit more information, as mentioned, Commissioner Crease, you mentioned that you wanted to see where there was a little language about storage of food trucks. We also added in the long-term portion of food trucks where the rules for food trucks in residential areas also gave restrictions there to say that they could not house a food truck basically in a residential zoning district or invisible site from the right-of-way or plain view. So,
On the new section created, explain to me, no food truck shall be left unattended or stored at any time on the vending site. I get that if it's open, like you're gonna go to Drake Field, you're not gonna leave your truck out there. But if that vending site is at a construction zone that has a garage and they can store it in an enclosed structure.
So this language currently exists in your code,
Right.
right? So it's basically saying that no food truck or equipment shall be left unattended or stored at the vending site when sales are not taking place during restricted hours. So that means that when the operations has ended, the vehicle needs to be removed from the site. And that basically means that you can't just leave the vehicle there. If it's a commercial site, there are rules that if, I don't know, let's just say Andrew's, I don't know, hot dog stand. If he has an actual brick and mortar, but he also has a food truck, he can place his food truck in the rear of his building out of plain view. That's currently allowed.
Okay, that's, well, I just
For
it struck me
storage.
that if, I used to do construction for a real short
Okay.
time, but they would bring the food truck, they just leave it.
You can't.
No, but they would park it inside, it was at a school, they would park it in a garage.
Yeah.
That's allowed.
As long as it's out of plain view.
Okay, but that didn't say that here.
Well,
It just says it can't be there.
that portion of the language, I may not have included the piece. There's another piece for certain weights of vehicles. That's in the parking ordinance. It's not in this ordinance. But that is the piece when speaking with the actual code enforcement manager, he shared that is the rule that he uses for when those vehicles are left unattended. It's actually in the parking ordinance. But if you would like for us to look there as well to
I
add
just
language,
think,
that's
yeah,
fine.
I just think the way it's, I agree with the wording, I mean, the concept, but I don't like the wording. It
So are you
strikes me that
attempting-
if I could park it at a data center, it's outside today,
Mm-hmm.
we're selling food, and at 5 o'clock, I'm putting it in a garage at the data center, this says I can't do that.
For food trucks.
For food trucks,
Yeah.
but still, it's,
But-
if it's hidden and out of sight,
Yeah.
who are we to say you can't park it there if the data center's okay with it? If the avenue's okay with it?
Yeah.
I get if it's in plain view, it's a problem.
So I will clarify that the way the regulations work, we do have that authority to say where it can and cannot park. Those are called police powers that the city has. So we can in fact say that they can't store it on the site, which is what I think the discussion was had last time
Okay.
to ensure that those parking restrictions were in place for food trucks. And I confirmed with our code enforcement manager that those are actually in existence today, but it's located in our parking ordinance. So, but again, this piece is to say when you have the vending site, you can't leave it on the vending site. So again, it's basically saying that it must be removed when the sales aren't taking place. That's currently in your language today. The only thing I changed there was remove the word structure and instead replace the words food truck.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay, so long-term storage of food trucks, as mentioned, Commissioner Chris, you mentioned that you wanted to see where there was language for residential. So that's what that language is for. Okay, so next, we're going back into actual long storage for push carts. So we created additional new language for the area that we're creating for 90812, which is a new section. We looked back into that and we found language where we're saying no push carts shall be left unattended at any time. We found that with push carts that are much different than food trucks where a push cart, whatever is on that cart, someone can reach and touch. So we felt that it should never be left unattended for the safety of those who may be passing through. Push carts parked or stored overnight shall be located entirely within a fully enclosed building or structure for the same exact purpose as I'm mentioning. It should be away, protected, and stored away. The next question that was asked are what are the rules of parking and storage for residential? And as mentioned, it's showing that push carts, just as we're doing with residential for food trucks, we're restricting that as well. Push carts parked or stored overnight shall be located entirely within a fully enclosed building or structure. So that doesn't stop Andrew from when he has his hot dog business to place his push cart inside of his garage. Sorry, Commissioner, using you as an example.
And on the vendor property too. I think that
Correct.
there's a distinction between the two. We're saying very specifically, at least the way I read it, if for a food truck, you gotta get it out of there. But wherever you decide to set up shop, but for a food cart, a push cart, as long as it's enclosed, it's okay. It can be on the vendor site is how I read this.
As long as it's hidden. and not-
Yeah.
Right, so as long as it's not in
enclosed.
plain view,
Yeah.
we can't stop them from
Which I
storing in
think
the
is
rear of
very
the building.
reasonable. If you've allowed access by the person who owns the property and they have a garage for you to rent, cool, great.
Why can't I put my food truck in that garage is my question.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the part that I'm getting. I get that we don't want it outside where everybody can see it, but why, if I've got an agreement with the place that I go to every day, and can I park this inside your garage, why we're not allowed to do that?
So again, I don't know that it's restricting that. I think that as long as the parking ordinance is saying that they can't park it in plain view, which is what I believe the language says, it should be
Okay.
fine.
All right.
I don't think there's-
That's not the way I read that sentence, though. That's why I was asking the question.
That's in, okay,
908.
what I'm saying is you're not seeing what you're looking for in that section. You may find it in another section is what I'm
I
saying.
understand that part.
Okay. Alrighty, so additional requirements, it was mentioned that there were aesthetic sign requirements as well as operational sign requirements that the food truck had that you thought would be really great to place inside of the food truck component. So what we did was we took time to look at each individual section and felt whether it was pertaining to food trucks or should it also be allowed to be listed for the push carts. And so if it allowed for push carts, we placed language there. And we also gave a little bit of additional language just to kind of make it where operationally it just made sense. So you'll see the different changes that we made within that ordinance. We believe, and Laura and I have worked on this file very in depth, and we do believe this is a very strong document that will allow for us to be able to regulate. We did, have the opportunity to share this with our code enforcement manager, who believes that it is a good document that he can find himself enforcing. So we're pretty pleased with this. I just wanted to add that to it. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gonna open it up to any questions from the commissioners. Commissioner Gant.
I have no
Anything for
questions,
staff?
except I want to say it did a lot of work, and we do appreciate it very
Thank you.
much. It's a good job.
Thank you.
Commissioner Allen?
What if they have a garage? No further questions.
One demerit.
Excellent.
Commissioner Chris?
Yeah, no questions.
Commissioner Halverson?
My only recommendation would be that if this is not all comprehensive with all the other codes that could affect it, then I would do a reference in a subsection that says, please refer to X, Y, Z,
Agreed.
so that you're covered and you're not changing anything.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Commissioner Hamner?
No questions.
Any comments?
Looks really good.
Commissioner Halverson?
Nice job.
Commissioner Chris?
Yeah, ditto, nice work on this.
I'm gonna skip Commissioner Allen. Commissioner Gant?
Very good job. Thank you.
Commissioner Allen?
Thank you.
And I'd like to reiterate, excellent work. This is, again, something that came forward from council. When we kind of first heard about it, it's like, well, why haven't we had this? And I'm glad all the hard work that was put in, that I think we have a pretty darn good document. It's going through the rigor of, like you said, code enforcement taking a look at it, which is excellent, because it's not worth anything if code enforcement can't enforce it.
Right.
So I think, if we're able to put that reference back into that one section, just have a cross-reference, that's probably not a bad thing. And I think other than that, it sounds like we're pretty good. So
Do we need a motion?
do we, since that's the only item, are we good with making a recommendation once that reference is added to send to council? Commissioners?
We could do it now.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Yeah.
so, do we have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the text amendment for allowance of push carts.
So we would actually make a recommendation
With the
to
edit.
send to council.
Okay,
With the edit.
With the edit,
addition, or-
correct. Yeah.
so done?
Second.
Okay, so we have a recommendation to send to city council with the addition of the reference, the edit made. We have a second. Any other discussion, commissioners? No? Okay, all those in favor of recommending this text amendment with the edit to city council, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. It is approved to
Thank you.
send recommendation to city council.
Thank you all.
Thank you again, staff. Really appreciate all the hard work. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna switch gears, head over to new agenda items. We have a building elevation modification to the original approval for J. Alexander's 100 Marketplace Boulevard. And turn over to staff.
Okay, so tonight we have J. Alexander's is coming back to us with a slight modification to their building elevations versus what was approved. I'll sort of highlight that for you in some history. As you know, they are located sort of across 54 from the avenue right here on Marketplace Boulevard. Used to be Smoky Bones. It's in a GC, General Commercial Zoning District, as well as the Georgia 54 West overlay. So a quick reminder of the history. The applicant, the first time they came in, they were asked to, y'all asked them to work with staff and Commissioner Halverson regarding color of canopies and some of the materials on the tower elements near the front entrance. And they did. They met with us. The architecture firm did, and they brought. Then we brought some revised elevations back to the Planning Commission with those edits. The revisions that were proposed at the time better aligned with their brand standards, including some painting of the brick, which was a change from the original time you looked at it. But no color was proposed for the canopies at the time. And at the time, the color approved for the canopy was called Copper Coat by Barrage Metal. And you'll see in these pictures right here, this is what was approved at that time. And the canopies are this copper color. So as they were doing their renovations to the inside of the building and making their changes to the exterior, as they went along, they determined that the copper coat color was not quite what they wanted, and they realized it would result in a significantly brighter color and with a more reflective appearance. So not realizing they would need to get that change approved by y'all, they changed the color of the canopies to this dark bronze by a different company. And here's the revised renderings down here. They felt this color would more align with the brand palette moving forward and provide a more visual integration with the building. Staff noticed this change during a site visit and informed them they would need to bring that back to the commissioners for a final approval. And then, so we have these, and then here are some actual photographs at the site. You can see that the color blends with some of the other colors they've used. And that's all I have in the report for you.
Okay, great. Is the applicant or applicant rep with us this evening? If you'd please come up to the podium and state your name and who you represent.
Good evening. I'm Juan Pablo Santin. I'm representing Fusion AE, which is the architectural firm, and representing J. Alexanders as client.
Okay, great. Welcome this evening. Do you have anything in addition to add to staff's report?
No, it's pretty much what Laura stated. We thought on the recommendation on our first the first time we came to the council to get as much as possible a more cohesive color palette in the building, and just checking on the copper palette that we use on the beginning. It was very reflective and showing just a very light, very hard lights on the reflective area, and this one was more into the full brand of the other restaurants around the states, to have a more cohesive brand here representing the Alexanders here in Peachtree City.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to open it up for questions from the commissioners to either the applicant or staff. Commissioner Hamner, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Halverson?
I don't have any questions. When we talked the first time, I did kind of question that copper color, and you headed in the right direction. So
Yeah.
I think this is a better choice, and it cohesively pulled it together better.
Thank
So.
you.
Commissioner Chris?
No questions.
Commissioner Allen, questions?
Yeah.
Can you
Tell
store
me
a
if
food
I'm
truck
wrong.
there?
Yeah, tell me if I'm wrong on this, but the one thing that gets me, I like this better. But my question is, if you knew you had to get approval for the original build, why didn't you think you had to get approval before doing the construction and making a change?
That was probably my entire mistake. Just didn't thought that we would have to come back for an approval for a better choice of color.
But a better choice of color is presumptive, right? I mean, you did make a better choice.
Yeah.
But if you thought bright pink was a better color, maybe
No.
maybe nobody else does. So my just question, I'm concerned about doing the construction without getting approval and then saying, rather ask for forgiveness than permission.
No, definitely was an omission on our architectural supervision.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, maybe it's a question for staff in the future. We could put a penalty for folks that come back to us too late, you know?
So that is one of the things that you have recommended, that, because we have seen this quite often in the
Multiple
last,
times,
yes,
yeah.
in the
Yeah.
last year long, where we've found that staff has found that these changes have been made without consulting with staff to understand the next steps. So that is something I will speak with Sarah to see how we can possibly add some type of language in there that shares, because I think that anything, currently in my interpretation of the code, is anything that does not follow those rules have room for such actions now. But I want to be a little bit more direct just to make sure. So she and I can spend some time conversing about it just to see, the strength there, so that we won't have challenges like this moving forth.
Donation to the tree fund.
The invasive ones.
I agree.
I tried that one once.
Commissioner Gant, any questions?
I agree with the comments that Jack just made, but I will say that I think this is a fantastic project, and I think it's going to be a asset for the community, and I think the design is very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Allen, any other comments?
I agree with the choice. I think it's beautiful. Can't wait to eat there.
Commissioner Chris?
Yeah, I actually really appreciate the change, because the last thing you want in that busy intersection is a reflective awning. So I think that's fantastic. Looks great.
Yeah.
Commissioner Halverson,
Nothing
anything?
further.
Commissioner Hamner?
I echo all the comments from this looking better than what was originally approved to about, changes being made and then the construction happening and then asking for permission and blessing on all this. So
Yeah,
excited to see what comes of that.
Yeah, exactly, and please understand, we're not singling you out. We've had this now happen at least 5 times, that we've seen the changes have been made after approval from the commission. In most cases, I would say that, the changes that were made were acceptable, and in fact, I do agree this looks much better than the original approval. I do like the look, I do like the canopies. But it is a troublesome pattern that we're seeing. So I think it is important to take a look and see, what is going on and what can be done for things such as this. I mean, because it actually is in the right to tell you need to go ahead and change the color back. And that's not something we want to do, but it is our decision. If we wanted to do that, we could recommend that and have that pushed through. So please, ensure in the future if there's anything that comes forward. I know this will be opening here in just a few days, if I'm correct. Is that, yeah? But just make sure that any other changes along the way are brought before staff and the commission. So.
I do have one question.
Oh,
Sorry.
yes, go ahead.
With the approval of the materials, is that tied to the building permit?
So that's actually tied to the elevation component of it. So Laura does her separate reviews during construction, just to come back to ensure that what you've placed as an approval is being confirmed in the end. So it's somewhat tied to the permit, but not. It's kind of a separate piece for elevation.
Okay, because the question would be, if we were to go forward, we could tie the approvals of the planning commission to the building permit, and if there's a change to that, they would have to submit a revision to the building permit to get it.
But
an
the planning,
amendment, right?
but the planning commission is not tied to the building ordinance. That's only tied to the zoning ordinance. That's why Laura's piece is separate.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you for explaining that.
Okay, commissioners, anything else? Okay. We have a motion.
I'll move to approve the building elevations modification to the original approver, J. Alexander's, 100 Marketplace Boulevard.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the building elevations modification to the original approval, Joe Alexander's, 100 Marketplace Boulevard. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve and a second. Any other discussion? One last time. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the building elevations modification to the original approval, J. Alexander's, 100 Marketplace Boulevard is approved. Thank you very much. Okay, our last new agenda item is the landscape plan, daycare facility 1501 Georgian Park. Staff.
All right, so just a reminder, the location of this site is on Georgian Park, just behind the Kedron Village Shopping Center. Zone GC, general commercial. So the Haynes Gibson and Associates has submitted this landscape plan. The amount of impervious surface area on the property is 42,689 square feet, which requires them to plant 128 caliper inches of canopy trees and 85 inches of understory trees. Their proposal is for 130 inches of canopy and 86 inches of understory. Therefore, they meet that requirement, and no alternative compliance method is being requested. Just to point out some of the ordinance requirements for different planting areas, should be located on the front and the sides of all buildings wherever practical, and they have provided, they haven't actually provided that, and I asked them about these spaces here, wondering if those were some sort of open spaces that could have some planting, and they did respond that that was an area where they could plant. So should you decide to approve the plan, staff suggests that you require those planting to be in those areas between the building and the sidewalk in the front. Another requirement is that trash containment areas and mechanical equipment shall be screened. They are proposed, so here's their trash enclosure, and I believe that's some kind of utility box, and they are being screened with some southern wax myrtles, and also a couple of larger trees back there. Another thing is around the perimeter of all parking areas, staggered rows of evergreen shrubs should be included to screen headlights, and they are providing that along here and all around here. And finally, parking island shall be 100% landscaped with canopy trees, understory trees, evergreen shrubs, and/or ground cover in mulched beds. This is a very small parking lot, and the only island really is this one right here in the middle, and they do meet that requirement with 2 canopy trees and several shrubs and ground covers. Of the total number of trees, 78% are native to the eastern and or southeastern United States. However, none of the shrubs being proposed are native, so that brings the overall percentage down quite a bit. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, staff. Is the applicant or representative here this evening?
Unfortunately, at the last minute, nobody was able to make it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're going to open up questions. Staff may or may not be able to answer them.
Do our best.
But they'll always do their best. Commissioner Gant, any questions?
Not right now. I just wondered have we already approved the building elevations on this one?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Can't remember.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, Commissioner Allen, any questions?
Yeah, you mentioned that the shrubs are not, and that will change the percentage, but I assume they're still within the percentage requirement?
So if you combine the shrubs and the trees as a total amount, no, they're very low on percentage of native species. So the trees are doing a good job, but when you add the shrubs in, the overall percentage comes down quite a bit.
A lot of shrubs.
I think it was less than 30%.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Chris, questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Halverson?
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Hamner, questions?
Was there any look in seeing if any of these were invasive with the shrubs?
No.
Okay, there may be one. That's why.
Okay.
So I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. It's the one in parentheses with adagio.
The miscanthus grass. Yeah.
Yes, that one. Can we check to see if that's invasive or not? And if so, can it be swapped out with something that is not?
We certainly can look into that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's just a small planting. It looks like there's only 7 of them, so hopefully they'd be able to
Yeah.
substitute something into that location. Yeah. Okay. Commissioner Hemner, any other comments or questions?
No other comments other than the one I just made.
Okay. Commissioner Halverson, comments?
No.
Commissioner Chris?
Yeah, I agree with staff's proposal about the, including the, plantings in between the building and the sidewalk, but no further comments or questions from me.
Commissioner Allen?
It states that, AI states that adagio maiden grass is invasive, so we
Really?
would want that replaced.
Okay. Commissioner Gant?
No other comments?
No, I think overall it looks good. I do agree with the recommendations to replace the adagio grass, as well as the plantings that were recommended by staff. So with that, do we have a motion from the dais?
I'll move to approve the landscape plan for the daycare facility at 1501 Georgian Park, with the condition that the staff recommended requiring plants in the areas between the building and the sidewalk in front of the building, and with that the applicant must work with staff to remove any invasive species in the plan.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the landscape plan with the two conditions as Commissioner Chris has stated. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve with conditions and a second. Any other discussion, commissioners? No? With that, all those in favor of approving with the conditions as stated, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. The landscape plan, daycare facility 1501 Georgian Park is approved with the conditions as stated in Commissioner Chris's motion. Okay. Any member or staff topics?
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay. There it is. Next Planning Commission meeting, September 14th. Next UDO, September 28th. Is there anything else for the Planning Commission this evening?
I'm not certain if you would like to share whether there's, I think you have some interviews that are coming up that you may just want to just inform that.
Sure. We actually did hold interviews today
Okay.
for a full-time commissioner position as well as an alternate. Those interviews have concluded, and we have the recommended individuals. They will be, I believe, now going to council, but was with the mayor as well as one of the city council members this afternoon. So yeah, we're moving forward with that. So that's good.
That's good.
Yep.
Okay. I just wanted to share that just in case there was anyone who didn't know.
Sure.
But yes, the next meetings are mentioned and as shown. Excited that actually the next UDO meeting is actually tonight.
Mhm.
We should have probably put that up there that it's tonight, but we're really excited about having that meeting with you today. So thank
Okay.
you.
And speaking of UDO, when we do adjourn the Planning Commission, we will take a short break. We're going to move a couple chairs around, some people in some chairs, and then we will go ahead and open up the UDO with the chairman of the UDO committee. So anything else, commissioners, before we get a motion to adjourn? Okay, so do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move we adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn and a second. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Those who are U.S. citizens and are able, let's stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, staff, any agenda changes this evening?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. Any announcements?
No, sir, not at this time.
All right, so we have minutes to approve. Our last UDO meeting was on March 9th, 2026. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes and any requests for changes or anything else? All right, with that, can I get a motion to approve the March 9th, 2026
I
minutes?
would like to make a motion that we approve the UDO Steering Committee's meeting from March 9th, 2026.
Do I have a
Approve the
second?
minutes.
Second.
All right. All those in favor of approving the March 29th minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Presentations. We have the amazing group from Inspire here this evening. And with that, we'll turn the floor over to you.
Inspire us.
Yes.
Thanks for that. Again, for the record, my name is Sarah Sinatra. I'm Vice President of Inspire. I'm a planner, and I really like doing code, so this is really exciting. And I'm very happy that we finally get to meet y'all and kick this off with you. So if you see on this first slide, we actually, whenever we start a code project, we like to brand the project also to make it something special, to make it a little unique. And so our graphic team worked with yours, and we came up with Rooted in Community, a vision, a unified vision for Peachtree City. So that's the logo for the project. We had a couple choices that we showed council, and this is the one that everyone, including the audience, just voted on. So it's great. We'll just go through. I have talk about the project, the timeline, the scope, and then go through some next steps. So I just wanted to tell you just a really brief about us. I know the city selected us, but our team has worked on 69 comprehensive plans, 72 code projects, 55 redevelopment projects, and 11 development review. That means on the development review, we actually have staff that review site plans. So because of that, our staff have great knowledge of looking at a code and saying, well, you know, I would look at a site plan and this is really confusing or this is challenging. We also have a lot of staff, including myself, who have worked in the public sector. So we've really worked on both sides of the counter. That really helps guide our code work. The rationale. So I'm sure you all know this really well, so I'm just going to breeze through this really fast. 38 years since the last comprehensive review. Inconsistency within the zoning ordinance and land development ordinance. That's why we're creating a unified development code. So all ordinances are going to be housed in one document. Not inclusive of some current uses, some legal requirements. Those are things that we're evaluating. So we'll be looking at that. I'm going to walk through some of this, but we're going to be consolidating into this unified development code. We actually have an attorney on staff that we vet things through. He's a planner and an attorney, so we'll have him double check on state law to make sure that when we're preparing the document, it meets requirements. And we're having community-wide meetings, so we're expecting to have our first public meeting, I think at the library. We're working that out. It's in a couple weeks, and we're going to be advertising for that hopefully this week to let everybody know that they'll be able to drop in, chat with us, give us some of their input.
You have the date on that already?
September 10th, I believe.
That's it.
I will confirm that. I believe it's in this presentation, but I believe it's September 10th. So just to tell you a little bit of what we're going to do is we're very big on graphics. We've done an entire graphic library where we can actually go and be able to modify our graphics so that they're completely tailored for every project we work in. It's pretty impressive, like our graphics team that have put together what really works for communities. And so we're able to kind of tailor that. We like to put definitions, graphics even in definitions. If we're trying to explain what a side setback is, what a corner setback, things that might be unusual lot sizes, things like that. So we're very big into graphics, but that doesn't take away from the text. We believe you absolutely need to have the text to support that. So again, it takes away that gray area and not having inconsistencies throughout the language. Tell you a little bit about the timeline. So it is September 10th is what we're proposing for our first public open house. We're proposing to have this over at the library, kind of mid-afternoon time to evening, so we can capture lots of different types of people coming in and out of the library, be accessible. We'll be hosting another open house in January, and then follow up with a workshop with the UDO steering committee, the city council, and we're looking at adoption in March. So really fast schedule, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about what we're doing so far. So what we've done is, and we've already done this assessment of your current ordinances and related planning documents. We're then updating and streamlining the UDO and creating a UDO and a zoning map. We're doing project testing. So what that means is we're going to ask staff for a couple applications of projects that have been approved. They could have been projects that were approved because they met code, but you had challenges with them. You didn't like the project for a number of different reasons. We'd like to test that under the code, the proposed ordinance, to see if it reacts the same way. Most of the times, the changes are with landscaping. So we're looking to add more clarity to the landscape ordinance and add some additional requirements. So that would provide, it'll be interesting to see, kind of how those buildings react and how those sites react. And then the final product is going to be an online digital format. So it'll be kind of a flipbook style. You'll be able to access the code a lot more user-friendly, and it'll be interactive. So this looks very boring. But it's so important. This is what we do. We do a full reorganization. We take all the different ordinances that are throughout. Right now they're in different areas. We have to go and we color code them and then identify where they're going in the new ordinance so we don't lose anything, because everything has to be in strike through and underline and show where it came from before we start going ahead and editing and modernizing. You can't just throw out your code and start new. You have a built environment you're going to create. If someone did that, it would be creating all kinds of non-conforming situations, and that's just poor practice. So instead, we do this very tedious process where we make sure everything is captured and everything is moved into a new location, and then we go and start editing and amending. What this also does is it memorializes where it was. So if somebody says, this used to be in the code, it's not there now, we can say, right, this is where it was. This is what it's been modified to and amended and changed, so that there's constant, you'll be able to kind of go back and check where something was. And so this is kind of a cleaned up version, the original outline versus the new. We also take a look at the comprehensive plan. We understand that the comprehensive plan is going to be updated at some time in the future, but it's still your guiding document. It's still required by the state. And so what we do is we actually look at the policies in the comprehensive plan, identify where in the code they should be amended and changed, and then we talk about proposed actions. So we say, there was some goal or policy within the plan. We identify this is a part of, right now it's in the land development ordinance. This right now it's in the zoning ordinance. This is where it should be placed in the UDO. And we talk through with staff on every step of the way on these to make sure we are aligned. Some of the policies may no longer be current, and so we have that conversation. Is this something that we should be addressing? We went and made use tables and dimension tables. This is one of the things I know that your staff was very excited to have, was having a use table and having a dimension table. It's a lot more user-friendly when we're able to go in and say, look at all the uses, one location, identify what uses are in each zoning district. You can see them in one place. We do the same with dimensional standards because it's a lot easier when you're, instead of reading tons and tons and tons of text, to have it in a table format. Another feature, so we've already done the reorganization, we've already done the evaluation of the comp plan, and now another component that we've already done is what's called a best practices matrix. So we go ahead and look at all best practices, and we identify where those should be changed and what's best practice regionally, nationally, and we state to the team where should those components be housed. Lastly, we reformat, and I know this sounds, again, pretty boring, but it's actually something that is really useful, because if you go ahead and you do a code enforcement citation and there's a misquote in there, now you've started the whole process again. So we have to make sure that our formatting is intuitive and is user-friendly right from the start. A lot of times when you adopt a new ordinance, there are code amendments. There's always going to be some cleanup. It's a really large technical document. We try to avoid that the most and the best we can. So this is one of those features where we don't have some of those inconsistencies that often happen in code work. And your final deliverable will be graphically enhanced. We'll have all those tables. Will be more intuitive for you as the board that's reviewing applications coming through, for your staff, and for the public coming in. So I don't know if I can access the proposed website link. I don't know if that's possible. If not, we'll make sure we can get that to you. We've created a website. We have not made it go live yet because we wanted to make sure that we had the meeting with you first. And then we're going to be able to post that and make that live. We want to post that on social media, as well as having a link to your from your website, from the city's website. It's a live link. Yeah, it's a live link. So I don't know if that's possible. Just to give you a little
Sure.
flavor of what we've put together. It just has like a survey. It tells people what a code is, what a UDO is. It'll have, I don't know. Emron works in and she's in our Atlanta office, and so she helps me with notes. It's hard to do that when I'm giving a presentation. So.
It's all good.
While we're waiting, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So you mentioned the new versus the old, and if somebody comes out and says, hey, this used to be here,
Mm-hmm.
is there a way for them to, is there a table of contents that says this used to be here, now it's here?
So yes, absolutely. That's what that reorganization, it's going to, and we color code it so you could see, so you don't have to go through this whole thing. I mean, typically you would look at it digitally and you would just find the words, but we also color code it to make your eye go to it easier.
Okay.
So if it used to be in one location, it's now housed somewhere else.
But it's easy to find.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
May I ask another
If we
question?
can't get
Yeah.
to it,
Holds
it's okay.
memorized, I don't know.
So is there like a footnote as well that kind of shares, like, does each section have,
Not in the final document.
okay, so what happens to those notes that are currently in there that shares the historical language of the past ordinances that have been adopted in each section?
Mm-hmm.
There's language there, so I'm assuming that language does transfer over into the new document some way.
So it becomes a brand new document.
Okay.
So then it becomes clean because you're completely readopting a new ordinance.
Okay, because I will say there
We can
are.
talk that through.
Yeah, because there are some times when a code has adopted and they're curious to know
Mhm.
at what point did this adoption take place.
Yeah.
Those footnotes are really great for us to have to know, oh, that changed, because when you click on those items, the ordinance opens up and
Yeah.
tells you the date of the action. So it'll be really great to kind of keep that some
Yeah,
way.
We can
Yeah.
we can talk through the formatting of
Okay,
that.
that works.
Okay. You can. It's not letting me advance now. Okay, great. Okay, we'll make sure you all have that link so you can preview it and have a look at it. But we wanted really to also hear, it's really important for us to hear from y'all, and I just put some questions about what we should know. You know, you're reviewing applications, you see these before you. I already heard one tonight of making sure that, you know, there's some protection in there if somebody goes and goes in and installs something without getting the permission first, and what that looks like, some penalty action. But, you know, I put some on here that to me were things that users of a code could really give us some feedback on. potential variance issues. Maybe you're getting a lot of encroachment requests. I've been looking through your variance, repetitive variance list. So it'd be interesting to hear from y'all what of some of those that, you potentially think are more ministerial. Maybe they should become code instead of having to come before you all the time. Interpretations, if there's any challenging interpretations that you really feel are gray in the code and that we should crystallize, that we should either make more stringent or we should remove. Anything with your development review process that is a challenge to you. Any trends that you've been seeing that you'd like to see in the code. Signage, landscaping, dimensional, or any conflicting language. So I threw a lot at you, and it's not limited to that. I just like to hear from y'all.
All right. Thank you very much. So what I was thinking is we could just go down the line, ask questions, do comments as well after that. I'll start with steering committee member Gant.
Well, I would just say initially is give the Inspire team a compliment. I think you've done an outstanding job and are doing an outstanding job. I think this is going to be a great tool, not only for the staff, but for the city council as well as this commission. So with that, let me just think about it. I may have some questions later.
Sure.
Sure, we can come back.
Mhm.
All right.
No, I'm impressed with the amount of work that you've done, the changes that you've made already. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I echo those comments. I used to write legislation and statutory drafting in Illinois, so I really appreciate the detail level work you guys are doing. I think it's great. Couple questions. So I think you said in the timeline there's going to be like a workshop in early next year. What does that look like? Out of curiosity, what is that process?
Let me go back to that. So that would be really walking through all the potential changes. It's going to be a lengthy going through each chapter and fleshing that out so that you have comfort level of what those changes are.
And you like to do it jointly with us and the city council?
We haven't kind of finalized what that'll look like, and that's something I think, we're talking through with staff that can be adjusted.
Yeah.
And I'm also, if you have thoughts on that, it'd be good to hear.
Not really. So we're thinking about like a whole day type of thing or a whole afternoon. What? Just out of curiosity.
Let us get back to you on
Okay.
that. I don't
Okay.
have details yet.
Okay.
When we put this together, typically it becomes, we do chapter by chapter. And so some chapters are super easy. Other chapters are going to take a lot more time.
Yeah, sure.
And it may mean that we have to break it up into 2 workshops, which would probably be appropriate too.
Got it.
So
Okay.
we have to, I'm not there yet with the code writing to be able to answer that yet.
Got it. Yeah, see how substantive the
Right.
changes are. And then there was a slide that you had about the comprehensive plan and making updates based upon the comprehensive plan.
Yes.
I just have a quick question about that. So does this look like when there's a policy statement or some sort of requirement that exists in the comprehensive plan that doesn't necessarily exist in our ordinances, then what you're saying that you do here is you actually suggest an ordinance to be created or a requirement to be created and written so that we have consistency, I guess, amongst all of our policy documents and statements?
That's correct.
Okay.
And
That's cool. I like that a lot.
If I may add something to that,
Yeah.
because we are up for an updated comprehensive plan,
Yeah.
we are, and I'm really excited about that. Council just adopted the new budget last week. That does include a comprehensive plan, opportunity for an RFP to release for another consultant. So with that, when that consultant comes about, we're hoping that there's an opportunity for that consultant to work alongside with Inspire so that whatever happens within that drawing for the comprehensive plan can be done simultaneously, because it wouldn't make sense to have 2 different files saying 2 separate things, so they'll be linked and partnered together to write that. So the timing is a little off to do it at the same time, but it actually works in a perfect language to do it at the same time, so that we're held at state law to do whatever the comprehensive plan envisions. The zoning ordinances are enforcement powers, so it works to have them together. So I'm excited to see them walk together, the 2 documents.
That's great. Yeah. And then last thing, just to give you some feedback on the
Yes.
what should you know slide.
Yes.
You know, in our city, we have a lot of overlay districts, and that can be quite confusing, even for us. I mean, mostly for us, probably, but and for staff. From my perspective, it would be really cool if we could put something together, like a table or something that kind of very clearly outlines the differences between those. You may already be working on that, but that would be really interesting for me.
Elaborate on table, like, you mean like the uses or the types?
So the requirements of the overlay district, like, so if you're in the overlay district in Crosstown,
Okay.
you know, versus the overlay district over by the Avenue,
Mhm.
you know, let's put them side by side. I think that would be really kind of neat as a tool for us, and for folks that are coming into the city and looking to do development or redevelopment.
Okay.
Just an idea, because it's not always super clear.
Yeah. Can I?
Yeah, please.
Sorry. I just want to echo that because I do see the importance in terms of what steering committee member Chris is saying on this, because I will say this is that when we started this steering committee, obviously we're very focused on the UDO, but we see this also as a foundation for overlay districts. The overlay districts right now in Peachtree City, I want to say there's 4, maybe 5.
I think there's 4, yeah.
Maybe 4,
Yeah.
maybe 5, but it doesn't cover all the major areas within Peachtree City, and there's inconsistencies in terms of the way how sort of the scope and what each overlay district does. So going back to what you were just saying a moment ago, understanding and envisioning the overlay districts is going to be really important, because again, this sets the foundation for us to eventually redo or introduce new overlay districts in the future.
And I'd like to echo on that, because our basically our latest one was the 54 West. So that was the area over by Walmart and the Overlook and Home Depot. And we put a good bit of effort into that to try to bring that as current as possible. You know, looking at things, and that kind of ties into the emerging trends, uses, obsolete uses. You know, when we first took a look at that, it was calling out specific lighting brands for the type of lights that don't exist anymore. It was calling out specific textiles for canopies that don't exist anymore. So one of the things, of course, we took a look and said, okay, well, you know, instead of calling out specific brands of lights, let's just call out, you know, hey, it has to be, you know, LED, or it's recommended, or it's this type, but leave it up to the developers and the architects and the designers to add some creativity to what they're looking at, but still give them those bookends that they really need to fall between. And you know, our kind of vision was to go ahead and take that and, you know, look at maybe 74 South, you know, look at 74 North and things such as that, where those overlay districts don't exist or have not been updated in a long, long time. So I think that's an important point to take a look at those and see, especially along the major thoroughfares and business districts, I think are very important.
Yeah, some sort of guide.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds like you guys are doing these kinds of charts all the time, which is awesome. I love really seeing that, and to help, you know, organize this material. From my perspective, it might be nice to have no overlay district. What are the requirements? Then overlay 1, overlay 2, overlay 3, and it, you know, I have it all in one place potentially.
Can I ask just a clarifying question?
Yes.
So we've done dimensional standards, like a table, when it has all the different districts kind of in one, so you could see that.
Sure.
Are you suggesting that this would just be for the overlay districts, or do you want that for kind of all the districts? It becomes a lengthy table, but
Yeah.
we have, a lot of times we do this exercise because we compare districts that are really similar to say, what's different about them? Should they be, not with an overlay, but typically in a regular district, should they be folded into one? Like, what makes them unique? So we've had, you know, we have experience actually doing just that, but I just wanted to have clarity if it makes more sense for your purposes when you're interpreting this, if it's for the overlays particularly, or should we also include kind of the comparison of the different districts?
Gosh, that's a good question. I mean, it'd be cool to have both, right? I mean, from our perspective, you know, because we look at these things all the time.
Sure.
I would suggest an example, like have you
Okay.
do a sample first,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
instead of doing the deep dive,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right about that.
Got it.
that's a lot of work.
It is.
I was about to say to do the deep dive, but your point is great. But I think at the end of it, after that sample, to get that deeper dive
Sure.
would be
Yeah.
really good.
Okay.
Before we do
That's all
My
I got.
turn.
All right.
I have two questions. Based on your experience, because part of the UDO of this process is to wash all the different conflicts and things like that. In building code, we typically take what's more stringent because there's a lot of conflicts in that. Do you take the same approach, or how do you wash out conflicting information? And can you talk a little bit about your process with that?
So are you saying in other codes that are not part of this? So if there's state law that's more stringent, if the comprehensive plan has standards in there, that would supersede whatever's more stringent. Building code certainly, and we're going to include language in there that talks about that in the beginning. In the beginning of all codes, you'll have like general provisions,
Right.
and that would state that if there's a conflicting provision amongst multiple codes, fire code's another one, we're always going to defer to the more stringent requirement, particularly when you're talking about things like fire and building code.
It's also nice to have a reference if there is something that could supersede it. Just say, this is what the ordinance is, but
Right.
reference this just in case. Second question. In your experience, when you're putting these together all over the country, what, other than the color coding and some of the restructuring that you were talking about, what devices or methodologies are you employing to help our staff and the local, once you're done and you're providing this document, it's going to be a mountain, right? And it's going to be clean and it's going to be great. But from a referencing, organizing, just a use path point of view, are there anything in your experience that you can provide our staff that makes it easier to use and easier to exercise?
So the document itself will be easier to use because you'll have that linked table of contents. You'll have, all of that intuitive language in there. Are you talking about like a training or things like that? Or?
No, I'm just curious if there's anything from your experience that you've done in the past that this works better than just providing a document that has links in it that's searchable.
The basis of the code, because we're not getting rid of everything, the bones are still there. It's just organized in a better fashion. So typically you're able to search it because it is, web enabled, and it'll have those graphics in there. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
Can I assist with you?
Yes, go ahead.
So one of the things that I'm really excited that she's preparing, of course, that she's mentioned on the table. One of the challenges that staff has is that your code in different sections may not draw the same level of information for each different district. So what she's looking to work into is creating a table that most communities have, to where it's almost very transparent to be able to see where the uses can go across the board wherever it may be in the zoning. That's one piece. Another piece that she mentioned that we're really excited about is illustrations, because when you can see it, it translated almost just slightly better than the words, because what happens is you take the words into a photo and you're able to see that. So those are the two big pieces that staff has asked her to assist us in, that we have seen in other communities, or I've seen in other communities that I've worked in, that has allowed for us to be a lot more customer friendly with our responses. Because Laura will tell you that we're working on a response for a particular business today that it has taken some days and time to research, because you have to read several sections of the code. She's reorganizing it so that we're able to go into it a lot faster by not only placing in the right places, but maybe possibly taking some of the challenges that we've shared with her via email, the list of challenges we've had in translation issues, and changing either the language or giving us illustrations to help. So I am excited because the file that she's working to create will help staff in a way that is going to provide the best customer service for us to give to customers, while also making it so that if it's 2-3 o'clock in the morning in Japan, wherever it may be, and we're still asleep, they're able to open the file and translate without needing us on the phone or email. that to me is the best customer service we could ever give, is to be able to provide a document without us being present to help.
Great. Any
Okay.
other questions? All right.
I don't have any questions,
All right.
actually.
Can I,
Yeah. Go ahead.
so could you put the chart back up that shows the schedule of meetings?
Oops, wait, maybe it was this way.
There you go. I'm just wondering on the upcoming public open house, are you, how will you advertise that?
So, we were just talking about this, I don't know if you wanted to
I
mention.
can take it. Yep. So the city has their own communication department. So anything that we do, we must communicate it over to them, and they push that information out. They place that information on our website, social media, any type of news, email blast, so be it. So they put that information out based on what the city has defined to be their communication efforts. So she technically just gives us the dates and the information, and the city uses their practice to communicate that out. And that communications department is on board and communicating that out for us.
Got it. The reason I ask, I'm just, the design community, the architects, the engineers, the landscape architects, the ones that work for the developers and the contractors and what have you, are the ones that are gonna have to pretty much interpret all this for their clients. And I'm just wondering if there's a special way, a mechanism to invite that group of professionals in to review this whole process as well and have some input into it. I guess you could invite them to a public house, but to me, it almost a special workshop just for that group, I think would be very, very beneficial and helpful. So just I'm gonna throw that out as an idea. And then also, in addition to that, once the entire UDO ordinance is adopted, are there educational workshops for different groups like architects, engineers, developers, contractors, what have you, to get the word out, so to speak, about the new procedures?
So I can answer the second question.
What's that?
I said I can answer
Okay.
the second question. So if you're okay with me answering that latter piece, so once the file is actually adopted, the actual planning and development department, we've decided to be a little different with information than we have in our past, where we're looking to have different workshops for our community to come out and introduce our staff. We are a customer-based department, which means I don't know many departments that have a customer front, but we do.
Sure.
So we want to spend a lot more time just being more than just a voice over the phone or words on an email, and spend
Right.
time actually inviting the public out to come out and meet us and understand our ordinances and what we're working on this project. So that's coming. I think it'd be a great opportunity to do that. Either while this file is being drafted or soon before closing. I know that she's having a different public house opportunity, kind of answering the first part of your question. There could be activities that could help in involving the public that wouldn't necessarily have to have a meeting. Could be some type of opportunity virtually that we could probably reach out to some of our customers that are pulling permits, because we have their contact information. And we could work together, she and I, to figure out how we can receive some type of feedback from them.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm looking for is, I think, especially in the design community,
Mhm.
they're the ones that are working for the developers
Yeah.
and the contractors and whatever, individual corporations, having to pull this information
Yeah.
out of the UDO or different ordinances and apply it to their design. So I think some kind of a special workshop just for that group could be very helpful. I don't know.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Excellent. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, I just got a quick one.
Go for it.
In Boston, about 15 years ago, they were doing a wash, and I saw you guys were up there too. But they were doing a wash about 15 years ago, and found that there was still a law on the books from the 1700s that said you couldn't take baths on Thursdays. When you're doing this for us, is the process looking for outdated material, and or we've talked about this a lot, just conflictions? statute this says, ordinance this says you can, but ordinance this says you can't? Or do you find those conflictions or outdated material?
You know, I always bring up the example that when I was doing this once, I was consolidating all ordinances, and I realized that the definitions, they had definitions in each different section, and there were 4 different definitions for what a right-of-way was in one code. So yes, that's part of this process, is to go through and strike what is outdated. I don't think we'll have anything from the 1700s,
Right.
but, you know, that trend, you know, a lot of times you'll see terms that are very outdated, that are no longer, you know, something that we use anymore. We strike all those, we consolidate, we remove, we check every statute reference. So if there is a statute that refers to the Georgia statutes, we'll actually go in and check it to see if it's still valid, if it's still needed. A lot of times there's dates within the ordinance. A lot of times they're still valid. You know, there might be some important thing. That's why you know, with the staff, we have biweekly meetings, and those meetings are really helpful to be able to answer questions. I mean, typically I can just call or email Shayla and she gets back to me right away, but to have that time set aside where I, you know, might have a list of questions, and one of those might be, you know, this ordinance said, you know, this date, is this still relevant to the city? And the answer could very well be yes. So those are
Alright,
things
so
we'll check.
On top of that, so I guess this would be for staff. If you find 4 different definitions for right-of-way in a document, how do you decide that we're gonna go ahead, since they're all legal, you decide, well, we're just gonna stick with this one? Instead of, I mean, it's not just random decision, right?
So there's 2 things. So one, while Sarah and team are working on the file, we may in fact choose one that's more relevant to the direction we're going as a city, right? And I will tell you that there's a gentleman who I consult with on a regular basis when I'm consulting and looking at the zoning code, meaning if I pull the file, I very seldomly move without consulting with him for his translation as well. So that's first. But secondly, in the midst of that, if we're in the midst of a project right now, and it would not have enough time for the adoption of the code, which means I need to act today, the best practice in that is to look at trends, ways that we've handled it in the past to ensure that we're following that path. If I find that that is the best path to follow, of course, we continue with that path, and then maybe suggest over to Sarah that we continue to go in this direction, removing the other codes that hinder that in the new file. But as well as to ensure that it's kind of a tough situation sometimes when you find these conflicts. You just kind of have to, again, I consult with as I call him, my legal eagle, just to ensure that he's giving me what direction to move in, to ensure that the city's comfortable with that direction legally.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing else.
All right. Any other questions? All right. I have a few questions.
Sure.
And I'm glad you're on this slide. So I love this slide. I love that, you know, it's saying that we're gonna obviously work really hard through at least March 2027 and work to get this done. You know, when we were as a committee, you know, batting around dates, you know, we really didn't know how long this would take, and you were thinking it would be a matter of years. Now, again, we've been around for over a year, but now we're really starting to get a lot of movement, which is great. But within this as well, you know, obviously we say, you know, like we're going to be doing the public open house in September, then it jumps to January, then February and March from there. So there's a lot, obviously, that needs to happen during this time. And it's okay if you can't answer this in a really granular manner, but can you give us an idea in terms of like what's happening beyond these more public things that are going on?
So after the public open house, we keep our website open to collect, you know, survey information, and we'll post that for a couple of months as well, so that we're hearing from the public on trends, on different things they're interested in. We have a map on there where you can actually like click and drag and put a post and tell us something we should know about that part of the city. But we are doing some heavy code writing at that time. So that's when we don't like to really start our intensive code writing process until we have that touch point with the community and start getting some of those surveys in and meet with people. after that September meeting. We divide all of the code into different chapters, the new chapters we've created, and we start applying those best practices and the comp plan matrix and all the suggestions that we received really from staff and the things that we've heard to those base documents. So we start having these working documents, and then we start meeting chapter by chapter with staff. To say these are the types of changes we're looking at, and then we write the text. So during that time, that's what we're doing.
Got it. What are some of the typical feedback things or suggestions you get from the public and public open house?
So we're still deciding what, and we're talking tomorrow with your staff about some of our suggestions and what we want to do. We'll have a few boards and activities that'll be, some of it's just educational. Other parts of it are, having almost like a preference board. So if we give them what the current code says for landscape buffers or landscape material, and we show this to them, and then give them some other suggestions. Do you like this better? Do you like that better? It could be things with parking, location of parking, things like that. So we'd like to talk more about preferences with them, and typically it's more for non-residential. Obviously you have a built environment, you have a beautiful community that was planned. So, a lot of the residential is not being affected. So it's really on the new commercial or redevelopment that'd be coming in and preferences of what they'd like to see. So we're contemplating one of them being like a board that has, kind of design your city. And it's like, what would you like? Give us the preferences so they can maybe use like elastic or magnets or something to stick them over and tell us like this is what you prefer. So we're still kind of working with that. We're going to have a number of staff, probably 4 or 5 of our team members there, plus your staff, to be able to talk to the community and just take notes and hear from them. Make sure that we'll have like these postcards that'll have our contact info, the website info, so they can still interact and tell us more. We just, a lot of times with these, we want to make it more interesting and fun for them, but give them an avenue that they can reach out to us when they've had some time to think this through and respond back to us.
How are these two different?
Like you do it.
Yeah.
I guess my
Yeah.
question is, you do it in September, then you got several months in between.
Mm-hmm.
What is January getting that September didn't, or vice versa?
Right. Because we would have gone through a lot of code writing by then, we're looking at that second one of being more, not like a true unveiling, because that wouldn't, be cooked yet, but more of like, this is what we've been hearing. We do like a pulse check. So it'd be possibly a little more formal, like we're still identifying what that would look like, potentially more of a presentation, and then have like tables set up where they can interact with us with, I liked this, I didn't like this. So it'd be like more like small group.
Okay.
Got it.
That seemed to have worked, for that type of initial feedback. We like to do it more informal, give people kind of a taste for what we're looking for, and give them an opportunity to respond to us. That second one, a little more of a structure, and then those small groups seems to work.
That's your question. So I have a question about the actual writing process. So again, obviously we've talked about some things that will be done in terms of modernizing language, getting rid of anything that conflicts with each other, etc. But obviously it's a lot more than just reorganizing and doing those things. How do we ensure, what's the approach that you guys take to ensure the intent and the purpose of things that are being reorganized or rewritten are with the original intent behind those and are not changing them in some way? How does that work?
I mean, that's where we get the direction, not only from staff, that's why we meet on practically everything we're going to be changing. We're making sure we're not doing anything on our own. We're writing the text, but we're confirming that it's your code. We're only facilitating it. We look at the comprehensive plan. That's why the comprehensive plan, even though I know you're going through a new process soon, it's still your guiding documents. We want to make sure it's aligned. There's a lot of planning documents that we go through to make sure, and we've read to understand what the spirit of Peachtree City is. And so we try to make sure we're not doing something, and again, we're not changing the code wholeheartedly. You know, we're not going to all of a sudden come up with new districts that are so out of alignment. So that's kind of what we do, and that's why we consistently check in with our staff. We don't write this and then check in, 2 months later or a month later even. It's every other week.
Understood. So obviously, we're talking again about a lot of material that's going to be changed. How, and again, we have the workshop that's going to be in February, but how, are there going to be regular check-ins or updates in terms of what's being done? Like, how does this work? Because again, getting it all at once is going to be overwhelming.
You're saying with the UDO steering committee?
City council.
Or city
your
council, just again.
I'm going to ask Shayla to answer.
So I need a little bit more clarity. Are you
Sure.
saying, when it comes to city council, are you saying that before the adoption, or are you saying along the way? Like, give me a little bit more
Yeah,
information.
let me reword this. So
Okay.
obviously, if this were worked on and changed, and we would have a massive amount of things to look at once on that. And it would be really hard to understand and comprehend everything that's being presented to us. So what are the opportunities to have those broken down?
Gotcha.
Or do we get to see it over time, so that way we can see how the process is going and understand what's happening
Talking
with
about
it?
quality
Gotcha.
assurance.
Yes.
Understood. So this is probably my third UDO project, and so I share that to say that the way we've done it in the past would probably be the best way to do it, which is like a slice of pizza, right? Or a pizza being sliced, kind of delivering it to you, where the smaller pieces are coming in together and the larger pieces maybe separately, but we're giving you timelines and deadlines to maybe give some reviews. Maybe we summarize it and give it to you as a summary. Hey, this section had the following changes, or this section didn't have many changes, or clarity was provided here versus there, and explaining it over to you as we basically separate the file, because it could be a lot to dissect at one day. But if we take it and give it to you in pieces, that's easier to respond to and give comments. And then you give your comments back to staff, whether it's concerns or questions. And then, of course, we relay that back over to Sarah and her team just to say, there's concerns or questions here. How can we find ways to address that?
Sure.
So, yeah, it just depends on if that would be how you would like to see it. I will say that we wouldn't want to take it to council until after you, as a steering committee, have given it your thoughts and review first as a steering committee.
Understood.
Okay.
And then my last question, and I asked you this over here, but I'll ask you it again. What can we do to help city staff, to help you and the Inspire team go through this process?
So, like I was mentioning kind of at the last slide I had, I can only review. I've watched some meetings of the planning commission or from the council to kind of get an idea of some of the concerns. I've read all of the last variances in the past. I don't know how long that was, last year or so. Yeah, there was a lot of variances. So trying to get a good grasp of some of the major challenges with the code. I always think variances could be a challenge because it means that there's something that's conflicting in the code. So it doesn't have to be tonight if you want to kind of think about it a little bit, any of the past applications. Something that could be helpful for us to be aware of, that you could say, it would be nice to potentially have you amend the code so that it becomes an easier interpretation, so that there's more direction for not just the developers and staff, but for the board either to approve or deny something because it's crystal clear in the code, where right now you have that vague language or things like that. I think that would be, as users, as people who are sitting there interpreting the code, I think that's really valuable. More than typically staff, because staff is so ingrained in it that those things you just get used to a lot of times. But when you're looking at it a couple times a month and thinking about it in that concept, it's really helpful for us to hear and to convey what those issues that you see are.
Excellent. And I know that we've communicated a few things over time, just to steal what Scott has said in the past about like charging stations for electric cars, things like that. So there is a list of things that we've already brought up that could be good to revisit, which I believe are on that Microsoft Drive.
Yes, and we'll pull that, Laura, so that we can share
and I think that's good you brought it up, because I was actually gonna bring that up again, is that, in many ways, of course, we look at Peachtree City as unique, and in many ways it is. But in other ways, we see similar issues that other cities of our size or type see. And one of the things I've always looked at, and we've asked multiple times over the years, is, well, what is someone else doing? Do they have that same issue? Look to comparables to kind of help guide us sometimes. And that's something that I would, and I'm hoping that you will be able to do, is that, well, whether it was Savannah or whether it was Orlando, yes, they had similar issues, and this is how, it was taken care of, or it was rectified. Whether it be EVs, whether it be other things, is that we don't have all the answers. We know there are other ways to do things, but looking at what best practices and best guidance are out there for certain comparable or similar issues is something that I would really like to see.
If I may, I had shared with Shayla when I was here for the council meeting, when my contract got approved, there was an item on the agenda that happened to be a variance, and it was a variance for an easement. And I think it was a landscape encroachment easement. And it brought me back because for 12 years I was the planning director for the city of Weston, which is a planned community in Florida.
I still live there.
Oh, really? And so I was the planning director there for 12 years. And these are things that when you have a planned community, that evolve over time. So we had those conversations a lot about what we do with, when it was originally platted and it was designed a certain way, and over time, things get developed. So we had talked initially about, ways that we can kind of think those through, and, are some of those, how do we protect them? How do we change them? Things like that. So yes, we do think about that. All my work is primarily in the Southeast. So I do work in Georgia, Florida, and North Carolina, and South Carolina. So we work in codes in a lot of different communities.
Perfect. Thanks.
That's great. All right. Any other questions? We'll do comments.
Well impressed.
All right. Scott, you want to start us?
No, I just want to say thank you for all the work that you've done up to this point. When Kenneth and I first kind of kicked around the idea of doing this, and you've probably heard that this was attempted at least once before, and it unfortunately didn't go anywhere. And we kind of started talking amongst the two of us to start and said, I think this is something we can do, not knowing what that was going to be. And is it something we should do? And we put together, Kenneth did the vast majority of it, but put together a presentation to City Council and said, we would like to take it upon us and really pull in the Planning Commission to go ahead and bring this as kind of a grassroots effort and go forward. And, we didn't know what we didn't know at the time. Had no idea how long it would take. We put some estimates out there. We talked to some other people. Fayetteville had done theirs, but they actually had staff to do it. We had them come in and sit down and kind of present and talk with us. And the realization was that this is so much bigger than what we initially thought. We knew it was big, but it's so much bigger, so much larger, and so much more comprehensive. And we were really thankful that staff and City Council were able to agree to go ahead and fund to be able to get you on the project. And just the amount of work that's been done and what you've shown and what you've told us this evening, really makes me feel good that we're going to get a great product coming out of this. Something that it's very possible maybe we wouldn't have been able to do to that extent, to be honest. And I really think this is going to be something that's going to, it's going to benefit the city, it's going to benefit developers, but it's going to benefit, the citizens. I've been on multiple ACCs, I've been chairman of HOAs and things such as that. And when I started looking, and I told Shayla, when I started looking into fencing some requirements and ordinances. It took me down a rabbit hole that I had a very difficult time getting back out of. And something as simple as fencing, and I'm like, oh my goodness, where else do we have issues like this, and where else do we have issues? And I don't deal with that on a daily basis. They do. So I think the end result of this will be a truly great document for the city, for everyone, and tying it in with the comprehensive plan update and having that lockstep together will just make it even that much better and that much powerful going forward. So again, thank you for everything that you've done, and looking forward to continuing this on.
Appreciate it, thank you. Really
Excellent.
excited.
Committee member Halverson.
I guess the only request I have for you is that, these are milestone dates, which are great. But if you could provide staff and in turn provide us a little bit more fine-grained detail of your work process schedule, so that we understand where you are and how we can provide you feedback in a real time.
Absolutely.
The other request would be between February and March, on that milestone listing, when are you going to have a draft document for us to review ahead of March, and is March realistic, is the next question. So, it's always good to have milestones to try and hit, but once you get into review processes and feedback and then reincorporating any comments, it always kicks out. So
we'll get you a detailed schedule.
Right.
We have that, and we actually we look at it every week because we have bi-weeklies with your staff, but we also have internal meetings every week with our internal staff. So we're checking that to make sure that we are hitting all the dates, so we can get that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Committee member Chris.
So I just echo what my colleagues have said. They're positive statements. I look forward to this for my own purposes. I think I look forward to this for staff. I know it's just a nightmare sometimes to deal with some of this stuff, so I think this is going to be great for them. And I look forward also to getting those like pizza slice bites of the stuff that comes out, so that we can look through it and give feedback. I think that's going to be a really good process, and my only request there is when we get close to that, let's kind of map out what that looks like. What does success look like in terms of, hey, this is what you're getting today, and this is what you're going to get in 3 weeks, and this is what you're going to get in 2 months. I think that's exactly what Rob is saying, and I think that would be a really nice thing to have, is some sort of roadmap. But yeah, this is fantastic. Thank you for the work.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Allen.
I'm just impressed with how much you've done so far. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, it's been a partnership with your staff, so thanks.
All right. Last but not least, committee member Grant.
I just think back to my city planning days, and I think about Shayla here in her planning days. And I wish we had gone through this process when I was in Columbus, Georgia, when I was planning director there. And so I just want to compliment you again on the work that you're doing, and how much this is going to be very helpful to all parties, not only the city, but the private sector as well. And I would just encourage you as much as possible to bring in those private sector design professionals in the earliest possible in this process, and make a special effort to invite them into this process, because they're the ones that are going to have to interpret all this and plan for all this for their clients. So again, thank you for what you're doing, and you're doing great work. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure Shayla and I'll be going through these notes and kind of figuring out a plan.
Excellent. Well, I'm really excited for this. Again, thank you for everything that you and your team have put together, and also for city staff. And, I'm excited to be working with you guys on this. I think we got a lot of work ahead of us, but it's really important work, and it's going to turn out really great. So very excited for all this.
Chairman, may I ask a favor?
Sure.
I just emailed or also added inside of our group chat the link to the website that she's mentioning, and asking if you all could take a look and provide feedback to us so that we can share it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Sounds good. All right. We have no old agenda items, no new agenda items. Member staff topics. Anything you guys want to add?
No, nothing at this time. I'm just thanking you all for your commitment to this project. I will tell you on behalf of the team, Laura and I may represent two people here, but we have a team that is really excited about this CDO. We have what we call a development team that includes the engineer, the fire marshal, the police department actually also is a part of that. And, you know, we're just ensuring that this is a product that you all will be pleased with as residents as well as committee members. So just wanted to thank you all for your commitment that you've provided into this project. So thank you all.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone.